Welcome to Backpage Blues Part 2. It's time for my favourite part of the week. I'm still joined by Charlie the Hurricane Skinner from the Mail Online, and it's the time where we answer your questions. So I suppose we should make a start?
Yeah, well, part one was a bit depressing, wasn't it?
Part one was, so let's try and make it a bit more uplifting in this this part. First question is from George Benson. George is the herder of buffalo on YouTube.
Mate.
He's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
Great to hear from you, George.
Lad.
George has a worry, and he wants to know how likely is Roman to give in to our pressure to offer the captain a new deal?
The captain. Look, this has been, for me, by far the biggest news at Chelsea in the past, well, this season, to be honest. It's a really difficult situation. The club, I can tell you this now, the club were taken completely by surprise, as were the fans.
The club can't have been taken by surprise. They've initiated this.
Yeah, but they were obviously surprised at the timing of it.
The club was surprised about Terry talking to the press, you mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Not surprised that it's happened.
No.
Right.
No. The club are staggered that this has come out. But that's Terry's right for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great story. Terry has rightly put himself on the front foot with this story. Obviously, Chelsea released a statement late that night saying that the channels of discussion are still open, which for me is the way that Chelsea have treated that spine, which is we're looking at.
Yes, former legends, aren't we? Ashley Cole cast aside, Frank Lampard cast aside.
We all have, Zola, Peter Osgood, and those names will forever live on. But we're talking about the greatest players in Chelsea's most successfed period in their history. Yeah. And almost to a man, they've been shoved out the back door, completely against the fans' wishes. Terry was kind of left in limbo and has now put himself on the front foot. For me, Chelsea have got this huge problem where they've completely lost that experience and affinity with the club.
They made a mistake this time last year with Drogba, though, didn't we? We made a mistake getting rid of Drogba and not having him around the club. We're not saying that he should be playing every week, but I'm saying that he wasn't playing at the beginning of this season. If he was there, a lot of these problems that happened this season probably wouldn't have developed.
I completely agree. I think it was, I've said many times, I think it was very, very obvious what a key influence, maybe not on the pitch, but certainly off the pitch, Drogba was last season. What on earth are they doing, letting Frank Lampard go and sign for a club that's associated with Manchester City?
Yeah. What on earth are they doing allowing Petr Cech to go to Arsenal?
Precisely. And this is not just
going to hand him the league. This
is not just about the fans, and that's a huge element of it. But it's about losing what makes Chelsea, losing the identity of the club, losing players that know what it means to win repeated trophies for the club.
I don't think that this is about what happens on the pitch. I think John Terry's character and personality and presence is bigger than what goes on for 90 minutes on the pitch.
Well, of course.
However, let's just play that card for a moment.
He's still
the best defender at the club by a mile.
By an absolute mile.
So what are you
doing? Frankly, I know. Look, I'm a fan of Zuma. I know everyone watching is.
I'm a fan of Zuma, but you don't play one anyway.
Frankly, Zuma is far too rash at times without Terry next to him. If Chelsea want Zuma to be their lead defender, there's absolutely no way that's
Zuma has a huge future.
Zuma needs reining in.
Zuma has a huge future. I'm convinced he will go on to captain both Chelsea and France. However,
we'll see.
However, he needs a guiding presence around him.
Of course, and well, there's no replacement for John Terry in a playing style, and B, also in terms of what the leadership, the presence at Chelsea Football Club. There's no replacements to get that out of the way right now. In terms of bringing in maybe not world class, but a top level defender that can come in, lead the back line. For me, you're not looking at players that Chelsea are going to be able to attract.
But do you know what? Even if we signed, let's just say that we got lucky and we got hold of John Stones. Right. So we signed John Stones. You've got Zuma, Stones, Ivanovic, Zuma, Stones and Ivanovic at the club. Look, if the season goes well, you're going to play in excess of 60 games. If it goes well, you're not going to have them all fit.
And frankly, I think it's been shown in recent weeks that Stones needs reining in, Stones needs honing. We've heard Martinez, who's irked a lot of Chelsea fans recently, heard Martinez saying, well, he's got to be let to play his game. That's absolute rubbish. That's absolute nonsense. Talents like Stones need honing. They need crafting. They need reining in to make them more effective. When Rio Ferdinand arrived at Manchester United from Leeds, obviously that was a step up in the level of club. And one of the first things he was told by, I think it was Gary Neville and Roy Keane, said, look, you're a centre-half, we don't take any of that mucking about on the ball when the team's under pressure. Your first job is to defend. Yeah. And that's not a slight on the style of play. That is the responsibility that comes with it being a top level footballer.
Even the best defenders in the world still follow the simple rule, if in doubt, kick it out. I'm sure Franco Baresi, when under pressure, doesn't mind hitting the ball into Rosette.
Well, no, of course not. And look, I mean, for me, whether it was going to be Zoom or Stones, they've not. If Chelsea want to go back to the level of challenging for the Premier League every year and going deep in the Champions League, then Zuma and Stones is not an experienced enough centre-half partnership.
Yeah, exactly.
And
do you know what, Charlie? I'm just going to ask you this question.
We're not the favourites for Stones.
Just because we're in this world. The second question on my thing here is from John Terry Immortal at one Gary Cahill. I think you may have a vested interest. But he has asked, will we have any English players in our starting 11 next season?
I think it's a strong possibility that we won't. You know, at the minute...
Loftus-Cheek?
Loftus-Cheek. Is that Scooby-Doo says it? Look, yeah, I'd like to see him in the starting 11. I wouldn't like to see him in the starting 11 every game.
Cahill won't be.
Cahill certainly won't be. That's been proven this season.
And it's looking like Terry won't be.
I think it's very, very unlikely.
George's question here is, can you see... boiled down, sorry, George. George is a dear friend, by the way, so make sure you check him out on YouTube, Heard of Buffalo. But George has said, can you see a way in which Abramovich reverses and changes his mind?
I don't think you get to the position in which Abramovich has been by changing your mind very much. I think that the power which John Terry holds at the club is something that the hierarchy maybe doesn't see as a positive thing all the time. I've seen a lot of people go straight in for Michael Emenalo, which is a perfectly valid reaction, and I think a lot of the problems this season, you know, he is not blameless in the slightest. In fact, I found it very offensive that he was the man to go on Chelsea TV and talk about Jose Mourinho sacking. You know, I find it disconcerting that he's the one standing there with Pato and Matt Miazga.
Did you see my banner the other night at Watford?
Go on.
Did you see my banner at Watford for Emenalo?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Make sure you check that out on Twitter if you haven't seen it. And look, I mean, more than anything, that's just completely at odds with the fans' wishes, which they've shown that they don't care about. But Emenalo is not making these decisions on his own. You know, Chelsea is ruled by one man, and that is.
I agree,
Roman
but
Abramovich.
I think that Marina, is it Marina?
Marina Granovskova. Yeah.
Marina and Emenalo are complicit, if not.
No, of course they are. But they're following orders. That is a structure that Abramovich has built. Abramovich has surrounded himself with those people that he trusts. He owns Chelsea Football Club outright. He is.
But his job, Abramovich's job, is to guide the club, not on the pitch. In all other aspects. Emenalo's job is to guide it on the pitch. So, when something bad happens on the pitch, that's Emenalo's jurisdiction. If something doesn't happen right on the pitch, I think that it's Emenalo's responsibility. So, if Abramovich were to say, you know, this is all conjecture, but if Abramovich were to say, I don't think we should give Terry another deal, your responsibility then, as Emenalo, is go, whoa, steady, Roman.
Yeah, of course. But no, I mean, clearly he's not done that.
Steady Roman, he's the best defender at the club.
He is.
Steady Roman, you know when we won the league last year, that geezer played every minute of every game.
Well, look, don't get me wrong, I completely share frustrations, as I've said before. I can't explain it, but if you think that Emenalo is making these decisions on his own without the say-so of Roman Abramovich, you're completely deluded. I'm not talking to you, I'm just talking to
I am. That does actually talk directly to me because I am part of that brigade, I'm afraid.
Right. Should we move on?
Sorry. Yeah.
Finally, yeah. Well, anyway, that was obviously all about John Terry, but I think it's a huge issue. It's the biggest issue surrounding the club at the minute, and it's certainly one that resonates with a lot of fans. And therefore, it's important, especially on this channel. Joplings has asked, can you see Bertrand Traoré starting more FA Cup games and some Premier League games from now on?
Oh, not Premier League games. I can't. No. I don't think he'll be starting Premier League games. I think I'm very unfortunate that we got such a tough draw in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
If we'd got somebody from the lower leagues at home, I imagine he could have started.
He
played very well. He scored a goal.
Took that goal very well, I thought, of Milton Keynes.
Yeah, it's not easy either hitting across a keeper like that.
And been going on and on about Chelsea have like a striker depth. That is where he plays.
Yeah.
He's not a traditional number 9, but he is a striker.
Yeah.
And we see, where do we see him come on, like left back or whatever under Mourinho? So, look, I think him, Kennedy, and Loftus-Cheek are the three. Obviously, the 3 youngsters that are around the squad, and 3 that I'd like to see more of. Just quickly, again, a sort of follow-on question. Didier Drogba on Twitter. I know he's a huge fan of the show. What are your thoughts on the Man City FA Cup draw? Are there any positives to take?
No, not one.
Not really.
It's at home. That's a positive.
Yeah.
The fact that it's not at the Etihad is a bonus. But no, it's a terrible draw. It couldn't have been worse, really. Aside from if it was away, I can't think of a positive. No, it's the worst draw. It's the worst possible thing. I'm sure City fans will be saying the same. I'm sure City fans aren't happy with this.
Yeah, I mean, look,
we are probably capable of knocking them out, but it's an awful tie. Awful.
Probably the only thing in Chelsea's favour is City will have hopes of going far in the Champions League. City obviously are in touching distance of the Premier League,
and they could be.
They could feel.
And they're also going to have another game. They've got this still in the cup, aren't they?
They're going to have a cup.
But no, it's terrible for us because we're going to play City and Paris in 3 days of each other. I think. Dreadful. Sorry, absolutely dreadful.
Couldn't about something else.
Yeah, definitely. What else we got?
Yeah, Adam Spatari, the final question. He wants to know, who is our next big signing? Since the last 2 winners, Chelsea haven't really brought in any big players.
I'm not convinced that we will. It doesn't seem to be in Roman's paradigm anymore. It doesn't seem to be what he's doing. We seem to be consolidating, thinking of a move, saving money, selling players. I think the glory days of 2005 and 6 are over. Sorry.
I think anyone at this point in time, we hopefully in the summer we'll be sitting in this studio, and we'll be discussing what Messi can bring to Stamford Bridge.
No, realistically, is there anyone?
Possibly someone like Griezmann, but
not much in it for him at the moment, is there?
There's not. It goes back to the manager situation. A lot of people want Diego Simeone. At the minute, everything we're hearing at the Mail from his camp is that it's almost not really an option.
Really?
That's
well,
at the
great
minute.
News.
That could change, but I don't think you're going to be seeing that absolute top level Champions League quality footballer come to Chelsea, because frankly Chelsea won't be in the Champions League.
Superb. On that happy note, we will bid you farewell. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and comment below. Let us know your thoughts on it. Especially, please comment below and talk to me about your feelings on John Terry. Go on, you Blues. Welcome to the Chelsea Fans Channel. As you know, we have a massive match against Watford tomorrow night, and it's essential that we pick the correct team.